Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today, man, I want to talk about the Ohio train derailment. This has been kind of I would say more of a major story on social media than through the actual, mainstream media itself, which is pretty weird because the catastrophe that we're going to be talking about today, we don't even know the full ramifications of. I mean, the truth is, God only really knows right now what exactly is going to happen, what the outcome of this will be, but what we're going to be talking about today is a pretty serious situation, and it's actually unfolding right here in my home state of Ohio. So most of you know I live in Ohio, and I gotta say, the people here in the state, we're pretty worried about what's going on. We're all pretty painfully aware of the situation, I feel like. I mean, when it's happening only a couple counties away from your home, the word's gonna spread a lot differently than, of course, how it would for people living in California or whatever. But I mean, it's a pretty insane situation, a pretty unprecedented, potentially, situation here too. So for those of you who don't know, I believe it was a Norfolk Southern train derailed in the outskirts of a city called East Palestine, Ohio, which is about halfway in between Cleveland and Pittsburgh, right around the border of Pennsylvania and Ohio. It's a small village. You probably have never heard of it. The only reason I even really know of this place is because I know pretty much everywhere in Ohio, to be honest, but it's a pretty really just horrible situation. I mean, we don't even really know the full extent. That's why it's been so hard to really come on here and make this video. People have been telling me Optimus, make a video about the Ohio train derailment, explain the situation and whatnot. The problem with that is there's just so many different conflicting reports, and there's not enough, official coverage, and it's just been an insane situation just trying to figure out what exactly is going on with this entire thing. And I don't think people realize what exactly we're looking at here, the potential ramifications of everything here, man. We're talking about people's lives being in danger, the health and safety of however many people, right? I mean, we don't even know how far of an area this could really have ended up contaminating. I mean, they're sitting here burning these chemicals into the air. It's creating acid rain, potentially. It's blowing this, toxic cloud of smoke up into the air from it being burned, and it's getting blown over into Pennsylvania. There's just, it's disturbing because, you hear all these things nowadays, especially about we got to be environmentally conscious, we got to take care of the planet and we got to save Earth. Then you see a situation like this unfold, and it's honestly a situation you would think the mainstream media would want to do 24/7 coverage on, but you've heard essentially nothing. The politicians, even the Biden administration have been pretty tight-lipped about everything. It's just a screwed up situation, and for the people here in Ohio, I mean, this could have life-threatening ramifications, right? I mean, people living in East Palestine, they were initially evacuated, but they've been since now told that they can return to their homes. I don't even honestly believe that the government knows if it's safe to return or not. The government, they say they've been testing the rivers and the water supplies and stuff in towns surrounding the area and whatnot, but when you look back through history, if there's anything that I personally, at least, have ever learned from looking at situations like this, is it's almost always worse than the government lets off. It always ends up being worse and more catastrophic than everyone was initially led to believe. And I mean, when we're talking about the area is what really is scary, because the amount of people who live in even a 100-mile radius of East Palestine, man, I mean, within just a few hours in every direction, I mean, you've got Wheeling, you've got Erie, you've got Pittsburgh, you have Cleveland, Akron, you have Youngstown, you have Marietta, you have Columbus, right? You have all these different places that are population centers, that are major areas, metropolitans, and we're talking about seriously toxic chemicals. I mean, this train was, I guess, carrying very toxic chemicals in the back in 5 or 10 of these cars. 5 of them ended up derailing. They're talking about now 1 million pounds of chemicals could have ended up being burnt off into the atmosphere. When these chemicals were burnt off into the atmosphere, from what I've seen through research, it creates a toxic chemical that actually attaches to water vapor in the air. And what this essentially does is it creates acid rain. And God knows how many people this could end up affecting, man. And there's not enough coverage coverage on it. There's not enough readily available information. I mean, when we're talking about an ecological disaster the size of what we're seeing, like, this is something people need to be kept up on and informed on, especially people in the areas that could be affected. And now there's a lot of worry on social media because this area actually also happens to be extremely close to the Ohio River, which is obviously one of the most important river basins in all of North America. I mean, there are so many major communities and cities that are based along the Ohio River and its tributaries and the rivers that come off of it. There's reports of livestock turning up dead, even 10 to 100 miles away from the scene. I saw a video on social media that was, I guess, aired on the local news where it was like 10 miles from East Palestine. This woman went outside and all 5 of her roosters and hens were just dead. And this is like reports that are coming from all over the area, you know, of people's livestock just turning up dead. There's videos of people downstream of the river that runs through East Palestine, like 3-4 miles out of town, and they're recording the river, and there's literally just scores of dead fish floating on the tops of the water. It's like an apocalyptic scene unfolding here in Ohio right now, and it seems like the government could give less of a fuck, you know, like, you know, the Biden administration and all these government officials are always talking about, oh, you know, we need to step forward and really change how we act. You know, we need to protect and preserve our climate and our planet. Then when shit like this unfolds, they're as tight-lipped as they could possibly be about it, and there's no accountability being held whatsoever. The rail company Norfolk Southern, that has been widely blamed for this entire incident happening, actually offered 5,000 residents $25,000, which equates to $5 per person for their pain and suffering. Keep in mind, people were evacuated, okay? People were taken from their homes and were told that they had to leave. People may be, you know, permanently facing medical incidents from this, you know? These are toxic chemicals. It's not like this was just some bullshit, right? Like, these are toxic chemicals that have leaked into the air, that have been burned into the atmosphere, that have been seeping into the ground where they grow crops and where they live, infecting and infesting water supplies, you know? But they were all offered $5 by the company that's responsible for this. And don't let the rail line try and pretend that they're not responsible for this. Norfolk Southern and all of the other major rail companies in this country, they just went through a major strike situation a few months ago that the government helped actually, you know, get out of, because these rail companies are so important to the infrastructure of America. But people in these companies have been complaining about unsafe working conditions and them cutting corners on things like this for a long time. And then all of a sudden, you know, this train derailment happens. And it's like no one wants to point the finger at Norfolk Southern as if it's not their train that derailed due to probably their mishap. The only problem is, obviously, they're not going to take responsibility for something unless they're forced to take responsibility for something. And no one even really seems to know what the fuck's going on. And that's what's most worrisome, right? Like, there's so much potential danger and destruction from this, and we've heard pretty much nothing, man. I mean, people are calling this like a mini Chernobyl, you know what I mean? Like, this could be it is a life-threatening situation for people in the area, and it seems like at this point in time, we're not really going to know the full ramifications of what's gone on until maybe years later. And I'm going to be honest with you, man, I don't think it's going to be the government that gives us the full details, that gives us the full scoop on just what us Ohioans are having to deal with here. I think we're going to unfortunately have to find out the long and hard way when the results become more apparent of what exactly has happened here. All I know is this is just one of the most criminally mishandled, disgusting responses that I've ever seen from officials regarding any situation. I mean, the life and safety of countless people are in the hands of a couple people, if we're being honest. I mean, there's reports now that chemicals are being detected in water, you know, up to 100 miles away. And you're telling me the government's telling people it's safe to go back? I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. I don't want to propagate misinformation or anything, but at this point in time, I'm going to be completely 100% honest. As a resident of Ohio, I absolutely do not trust the federal or state governments on anything that they have to say about this situation right now, because this is fucking abnormal. You know, livestock should not be turning up dead 10 to 100 miles away from a situation like this, unless something much more catastrophic has happened that we don't know about. And if it wasn't that catastrophic, if it was something that they could contain and handle, they would have already made that very perfectly clear. Things would be going completely different than they are right now. I mean, there's even been journalists who have been arrested trying to report on this situation. Everything about this does not add up. None of these details add up. Nothing about what the government's saying makes any sense right now. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be a long time before we find out the truth of what exactly is happening right now. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. I will do update videos to this as more information becomes available. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Until my next video, this is Optimus, well, living in Ohio during all of this, and signing out.